Hey everybody, this is Rod Fuentes from Listen Loop, and today we're here with Matt Ryder, Global Director of Digital Marketing at MongoDB. And I met Matt over at the ITSMA conference on account-based marketing, where he presented this awesome talk on designing and managing ABM campaigns. Matt, if you could introduce yourself, I would love to hear about your background and kind of what brought you here.
Yeah, hey everybody, this is Matt Ryder. I've probably been doing marketing for love with digital marketing many years ago when social became the hot spot, and then it's kind of migrated and opened up into the vast ecosystem of digital marketing, the areas that we all live and eat and breathe every day now on our mobile device. And then what brought me to just the event and ABM in general is really helping to connect digital marketing with our sales team. Historically, a lot of it's been events and email touch based, but how do we continue to evolve the sales process, especially for account-based marketing, with social, with other type of components like domain targeting, etc., and just kind of attaching that to all the areas that we as individuals live, eat, and breathe on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And just so we set the stage for folks listening and so they can kind of compare their experiences to what you're going through, tell us about MongoDB, what stage it's at, and size of your team, things like that. Give us context.
Yeah, you bet. So MongoDB is a database company. Think about it as when you're shopping online, you have a record of yourself, a past history of purchases, things that you might have favorited or left in your shopping cart for later. You have a bunch of items and things and actions that you've done. What MongoDB is the database that allows online areas, as an example, applications, to pull in all of that data. Think of it as like an Excel spreadsheet with multiple tabs for individuals. So that way, as you were searching in real time, the data is accessible in real time and can easily be tracked across multiple tabs and multiple rows and columns, so that way they can correlate it to each individual.
Cool. And tell us about your organization there, your team. How large is the group, and who's the buyer persona you typically go after?
Yeah, sure. So the current digital team is now comprised of 5 individuals and an ad agency. And our buyer persona actually spans all the way from a chief technology officer all the way down to a developer, based off the type of product that we're working through, as well as the different needs of the individuals and what they're actually going for. So you have architects, you have developers, you have IT managers, you have CTOs. It's basically all of the engineering department people that really work on data.
I think it's a perfect segue into talking about account-based marketing specifically. When you have so many different buyer personas you could go after, that doesn't mean that they're all good fits with account-based marketing. So which persona do you focus on when you implement
when we implement our ABM campaigns? So I guess we'll touch base with the sales team first. It's really going to depend on who they're actually targeting within that specific campaign or that account, and who we want to target and engage with. And again, that's going to vary depending on the actual company and who their decision makers are internally, and that can vary depending on the size of the organization as well. Sometimes you'll have the CTO, and sometimes you'll have larger organizations who have different types of decision makers, whether it's at director level or VP level as well. So we really have to work lock and step with the sales team to identify who they want to talk to and who's most important to them.
Yeah, and when and why did you decide to implement an ABM strategy?
Sure. We've had a little bit of an ABM component before, but it wasn't a multi-touch type of program. It was maybe an email component as a nurture track, as an example, or maybe one-off events like our user conference that we have in June, MongoDB World, to invite decision makers from specific accounts. But what we had to do about a year ago is take a step back and look at it from an integrated standpoint on areas that we were missing or holes that we needed to plug. And there was quite a lot that we weren't doing with digital marketing. And we needed to step it up basically as the usage of mobile devices continues to grow and the areas that people spend the majority of their time on begins to change and shift, we needed to do that as an organization as well and shift with those users. So because of that, we decided to start looking at digital programs and the shift in digital as a time that people spend online to how we can utilize that and add that into our ABM campaigns and really take it to the next level.
You know, ITSMA, the organization that put on the event where we met, talked about the 5 reasons for implementing ABM. And they mentioned things like competitive pressure, buyers demanding relevance, corporate initiatives, and so on. Do you recall, kind of take me back to that moment when your company decided to dive into account-based marketing. Do you recall why? What was the imperative or impetus for executing this type of strategy?
You know, I think if I remember the conversation, it was how can we continue to penetrate and create more contacts within a target account and build more relevance within it. The way MongoDB works is there could be multiple engineering departments within one organization, especially when you look at larger companies, and we'll use Microsoft as an example with a global structure, and they have engineering departments all across the world. Not all of the engineering departments talk to each other. So how do we continue to penetrate that target account and continue to build contacts that the sales team needs and wants to be able to build those relationships? And so by talking through that, as a marketing organization, we looked at what we needed to do and where they were spending their time as well too, getting an understanding of, okay, maybe less people are now opening email from external sources. So what's another way to touch them and continue to keep them warm and or create new contacts within an account to show more interest and get more power users and more cheerleaders behind us as we continue to go through the sales cycle and increase velocity to close the contract.
And that sounds squarely within one of the 5 reasons or explanations that ITSMA described. Now, I would kind of bucket that one under the sales and marketing alignment. It sounds like sales and marketing got together, decided that this was an important strategic initiative and proceeded down that basis. Now, you mentioned that you began with email and you needed to start finding other ways, other digital touch points with your target buyers. And at this conference, you presented this deck, and it talked about some of the other channels that you have been using to find success. I'd love to hear, what that was that you executed beyond email, and kind of walk us through what you feel worked and perhaps did not work.
Yeah, you bet. I'll go and just jump into the deck real quick to make it easy for everybody to kind of follow along. The 3 main talking points that we discussed at the conference was think about the segment and target accounts through digital and how to utilize that, how to attract and engage accounts through digital channels, and then leverage offline tactics to continue to evolve your digital program so you can take the offline back online again as well and build through that. Before we jump into that, though, something that I get a lot of questions on is what does our digital technology stack actually look like? And what do we actually use to implement these programs and campaigns through all these individuals? So as an example, we look at it in 2 buckets. What is our program management? And then how do we analyze the programs to see if they're performing up to our expectations? So just real quickly, when we're looking at program management, there's an array of different types of technology you can use as a marketer, and especially within the digital sphere. There's always something new, something exciting, something shiny that we want to take advantage of. And I always stress and suggest testing new things out because things are always changing online. Things you wake up every morning, there's a new update to Google or Facebook on how marketers can leverage the platform. So continue to always test. But what's been in our arsenal, at least for the past year, are things like just Google in and of itself, AdWords, Bing, Glassdoor. AdRoll is amazing when it comes to retargeting as well as domain tracking. We use Ambassador for our referral programs to track all of those for account-based. We use Sprinkler for our social management, as well as engaging influencers that live within an account, that are employees of an account as well too. And then of course you have the native channels that we all have to live, eat, and breathe as social marketers as well too, to make sure that we're staying in front of are decision makers and we're creating new contacts so the brand is top of mind and the offerings that a brand has is always there and visible for them from an educational standpoint or just a reminding standpoint. And then we jump to the other side of analytics to really understand how all of these programs are working through these different aspects. So we use demand-based to help us identify domains that we want to target and who's visiting our site and how also are we seeing lift within these specific accounts and more site visits based off of our programs. We use Salesforce for our CRM. We use Visible for our SEO tracking from a competitive edge to really understand where our competitors are and where do we need to improve our efforts from an SEO standpoint. And then, of course, you have other things like Bright Edge and Tableau as well, too. So that's just a few of them for you guys to take a look at. And looking at the MarTech tools, this is a quick rundown when we look at it at MongoDB, from top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel, on how that helps us leverage and continue to evolve contacts, new or existing, through the sales funnel system and increase velocity to close for the sales team. And then we'll jump down real quick to think about the segment target accounts list. So at MongoDB, especially when we're doing digital ABM life cycles, the first step that we always do is we connect with the sales team, whether it's an enterprise sales rep or if it's going to be more corporate enterprise focus. We look at that and we talk with the sales and we understand where their focus is, who they're talking to, and who is of key interest to them. Not only do we get their buy-in, so that way as those new contacts come in, or they continue to see the effort that marketing is put into place, they're bought in, but it also allows us to understand what they're doing in lock and step and get a better understanding. So go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to interject real quick here because I see a lot of companies who understand the value of doing this cycle that you're describing, but they find it quite difficult to close the loop and to do each part. So would love to hear what were some of the challenges you faced in executing the life cycle and how you overcame them.
Yeah, one of the main challenges we have with the sales team is getting in front of them and showing the importance that these programs will actually have in getting their attention. I think that's one of the biggest obstacles when it comes to at least digital marketing, is because us individuals, we're always on these different channels and forums. So we begin to think of it as a more personal touch and with things that we use in our personal lives. And we tend to forget that it's actually a huge opportunity for selling and keeping a brand in front of individuals who are decision makers and helping the sales out. So a lot of that was just educating the sales team on the relevancy and the power behind the different digital channels and get them on board on that. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest hurdles that we had to overcome at the very beginning.
And to that end, was there a formal discussion with the sales leaders, or was it something that the education happened organically and through just a shift in the culture of what you guys wanted to accomplish?
No, that's a great question. I think for us, it was a shift in the culture and having the digital marketing team push the agenda of ABM for digital and just have it as one-off conversations with each of the sales leaders and their teams to continue to remind them and educate them about it. So for us, it was more organic than an educational training seminar.
And not to name names, right? But I'm very curious, was there any pushback from any of the salespeople or sales leaders about, this all feels a little too fluffy, or what's the ROI, what's the bottom line? Did you get any pushback or resistance?
Yeah, there were different ones, and everybody has a different comfort level when it comes to these type of programs. And a lot of it was finding the team or teams that wanted to test this and use those teams as their pilot, basically, to really build out the case for the other teams who might have not as been eager to try something out like this. And then as we showed velocity reports, increased contacts within specific accounts, that began to garner interest throughout other teams across the organization.
So you kind of knock one down and the others fall because they see the results and they want to play and be a part of that too.
Yeah, exactly. It's like building your own internal champions as you're kind of building this out.
That's a great approach. Please continue.
Yeah, no problem. When we connected with sales, we understood who we were going to specifically target. And then from the targeting understanding, we understood which channels these individuals played on, and what made the most sense for us as we build out our programs. Based off of the targeting from sales, we also understood how to create our content, whether it was an ad, an organic social post, or a landing page, on how we were connecting that story to them. Whether it was going to be a story around a specific company that we were wanting to target, or a specific industry, and telling the story to our target audience and personas within that industry as well too. And then last but not least, of course, making sure we had all the reporting in place as we begin to launch our program, so that we have everything in step to give feedback and keep sales up to speed on the progress of each of the campaigns.
Let me, again, pause real quick here. Reporting, I think, is probably the most sought after topic from the audience.
Yeah.
And the number one question that comes up is, how do I ROI, right? And I believe that there is a constant tension between people who want to see early indicators of success and then lagging indicators of, I'll call proof, well, not even success, proof with a capital P. How did you guys get in the favor? But just want to tee that up, and if you want to dive into it now, happy to do so.
Yeah, you bet. I can share a little bit. So the way we have our marketing organization set up is there is either net new lead. So you created a new lead, a new contact, but a lot of ABM accounts, at least for us, are not net new. They're more influence model. So you have an account within a specific company, and then you build in contacts underneath that. So what we look at is, has there been an increase in contacts within the specific account? Have we increased traffic to either the landing page and or to our website through this specific program and or campaign? Have we engaged these individuals through social, as an example? Are they leaving comments? Are they liking? Are they sharing the content with their social networks? And then from there, getting a little deeper as we look into the actual contacts within things like Salesforce. Are we building that out, and are we seeing velocity, leveraging things like Visible to be able to tell, are deals closing faster? Are we closing the deal cycle from, as an example, 4 weeks to 3 weeks? Are we seeing these individuals more interested as we're creating these programs? So those are some of the metrics when we're looking at reporting on how all that works. Are the deals that are being closed being actually influenced by these specific campaigns when the opportunity is going through the door?
And just to channel the voice of marketers I've spoken to, I am Joe Smith, and I work at ABC company, and I'm thinking, well, that sounds great, but I got to hit a quota of 1,600 MQLs this quarter. So, how does engagement in these other things contribute or help me out? It seems like we're just on different planets. How did that conversation play out, or was that an issue? What do you say to this person?
For us, we're actually held to a tighter goal here at MongoDB. One of the goals that we're actually held to is our SALs. So marketing isn't held to MQLs, we're actually held to SALs. And I think that's part of our success when we have that lock and step with the sales team to understand, yes, these have qualified through marketing, but are the leads that marketing is giving to the sales team actually being accepted? So for us, that actually has created a lot of success for us as an organization to be held to SAL numbers versus MQL numbers.
And have you ever been part of an organization that is trying to implement ABM, but is facing some of this MQL measurement resistance?
I think I would say yes. A lot of it came down to educating about the quality of the leads as well too, and are the leads might be marketing qualified, but are they the leads that sales is accepting? It could be due to volume. It could be due to not within the target accounts. So a lot of it was also just sitting down and letting them know that, hey, these are the accounts that you guys have specifically targeted and that you want us to go after. And the goal is to get more information and create more contacts within these specific accounts. So not necessarily always related directly to MQLs per se, but related to the top target goal in and of itself instead. So also helping them understand and separate the difference of the high level, okay, as a marketing org, we need to create so many MQLs within this quarter. However, because we have a relationship with sales, and they want to continue to grow within a specific account, pulling that and building that out as well too.
Very cool. Please continue with the deck.
Yeah, no problem. So just a quick checklist that normally the digital marketing team here at MongoDB goes through is just like the life cycle that we were looking at before. We try to break it down to 3 to 4 talking points, which each of those areas. Make sure you talk with sales and share the plan. Identify top targets together. It's always that relationship that's really important. Make sure to have sales buy-in so that they're also following up. So you may get the context, but we all know sometimes sales may become busy end of quarter. You want to make sure that you have their buy-in so they're consistently following up with those leads. They're coming in as they're warm and they've shown interest. And then also make sure you're setting up check-ins between marketing and sales as these programs are rolling out. Make sure it's set up consistently, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, based off your organization structure and what makes the most sense. So that way you're consistently getting feedback from sales on the programs that you're running and their voice is being heard as well too. And you're also keeping the program top of mind. When you're targeting, make sure you're leveraging your current database as well too. There's a ton of accounts out there that people might be going after. They may be net new accounts. But the great thing about digital nowadays is you can do a lot of things like lookalike audiences. Yes, we want all of these CTOs related to ABC company. Can you find all the ones that look like this within X company? So leveraging the current technology to help you take it to the next level. Make sure, this is very basic, but don't forget to always put your tracking pixels on your site or landing pages. Leverage capabilities of ad serving platforms, again, such as AdRoll. And then make sure you're consistently testing. That's also one thing that digital has that a lot of other channel sources do for ABM don't have is the opportunity to consistently test over and over and over again and continue to optimize your content for the audience specifically so you're getting the best conversion rate and the lowest cost per acquisition. When you're creating the content in partnership with sales, make sure you're identifying the pain points for these specific users and use cases. Create the targeted content so that way it's relevant to those individuals. Build your ads based on target audiences. And then again, test. Similar to targeting, you're also going to want to test content. So you're doing almost 2 types of testing at once. And then last but not least, but usually one of the most important ones as well, is through the reporting. Build reporting that auto-delivers leads, making sure that sales is consistently seeing these leads coming in. Place tracking pictures on your site once again. Again, that's going to help with your reporting. And then set up multiple touch tracking for campaigns. Multi-touch is probably one of the strongest things that we've been able to do for ABM outside of just the net new. And so this will help you continue to show relevance and impact to the programs that you're driving through ABM through digital.
Let's pause for a moment there. On this third section under the reporting element, talking about setting up multi-touch tracking for campaigns. What kind of attribution or influence do you give to display advertising that happens at the very top of the funnel, right? You're going after a new account, ABC Co. They're seeing your ads for the first time while Joe Smith at ABC Co. is browsing the internet, checking out Astros score. And what kind of attribution are you providing there? What kind of influence is that counting if that ABC Co deal gets signed?
Yeah, so there's a lot of great technology out now. I'll use one example is AdRoll. We use their view through tracking. So that actually allows for email capture of people who have viewed your ads online to add that as an influence or an impact or a contact or customer touch through the marketing system from a display marketing perspective. So that's just one example of rolling in and adopting to new technologies and new ways of marketing so that way you're staying on top of it.
Cool. If I could just dig in a little bit further on that. So you've got this ability to do a view through, and I do know that companies will aggregate the number of let's say, view through conversions on contacts related to a specific account. But what value do those view through conversions ultimately have when you're looking at a report at the end of a quarter or at the end of a year? Is that carrying a lot of weight, do you feel, at your company when you show that, hey, 34% of accounts that closed were influenced at some point by display ads at the top of the funnel.
Yeah, so we do a scoring here for things to MQL as an example, or for leads to be accepted. With ABM, we do a little bit differently, but if you wanted to look at it from like a scoring perspective, say for example, you wanted to score from 1 to 3, you'd receive 1 point for a display view through. As an example, they didn't take any action, but they saw it. Number 2 was they saw the ad, they went to the landing page, they came to your site and they explored. Great. 3 points are the most sought after one we would want would be they came to your page, they filled out a form, and now you have all of the contact record from this individual that's in your system, and they've raised their hand and showed that they have interest based off of that. So you can look at the different aspects of top of funnel, middle funnel, and bottom of the funnel from a marketing journey as well too, and equate that to the individual saying, hey, this person saw this display ad 5 times, they came to our site 3 times, and they eventually filled out a form based off of those different touch points for this individual.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. And is that a homegrown model specific to your business, or is that a sort of framework that you learned somewhere that you're applying here?
That's more of a framework that we've learned, but we've adopted it for ourselves as well too, for our organization, especially as we kind of build this out in partnership with sales of what else is also most important to you. Of course, they always want the information, the contact information. I think the most sought after component for a sales person is they fill out a contact form and said, I want to talk to somebody right away, of course. But there's other attributes that go into making sure that these people stay interested throughout the deal life cycle.
Yeah, and for the benefit of the audience, I'd love to reference the framework perhaps in the show notes. Do you recall what the framework is called or the source of that concept?
I wish I did. I don't, unfortunately.
Okay, no worries. We'll research it independently. Okay, continue, please. We'd love to see some of the digital campaigns that you put together as a result of going through this 4-step checklist.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Just give me 1 quick second here. I just had to shift rooms. Unfortunately, we were getting kicked out there. Okay, so when we're building out the component of understanding your target audience, one of the starting points is to review your site traffic. So really understand who your current audience is. Organic engagement, look for online conversations, and understand channel sentiment. So that would be before you start diving into a digital program, you have a sense of where your community or these individuals live, where they engage, and where your lowest hanging fruit is as you begin to build out the programs. So as an example, we're going to use targeted accounts through digital. Let's look at LinkedIn first, because I think that's where most people go to when they're thinking of B2B. So we look at the ability to now upload lists within LinkedIn. So you can take a list from your current database, accounts or contacts, and upload a list to LinkedIn. Then what LinkedIn does is they go through and they find individuals that are currently within that specific account, and individuals that look like those contacts within that specific account. So you're getting a more defined list of individuals you're targeting, and more refined as well too. You can look at it through job titles, so you can really start to narrow it down just to make sure you're getting the right specific person if you're going to go from an executive level campaign, or if you're, in our case, going to go from a developer standpoint campaign. We can look at industries as well too. And then we also target by the employee size of the account. So when we're doing what's called lookalike and matching our current contact list to individuals that are not within that list, we can also specify making sure we're staying in the realm of the company sizes that we want to engage with. And one form that I'm going to use as an example is called a demand form or form and fill. And LinkedIn has now adopted the same aspect that Facebook has had around for a couple months now, which is this card that keeps the individual's experience on the same platform. So you're not taking them out of platform as an experience, which significantly helps reduce drop-off rate. So you get this great pop-up that autofills for these individuals based off their Facebook and or LinkedIn information. And all the person needs to do is verify the information or make any edits that they see fit, and then submit. And then they're emailed the link to the specific asset that they showed interest in. What we found is we've been able to significantly reduce the drop-off rate and have a huge improvement on our conversion rate by using new technologies and new offerings like this through these platforms. Another component of that is engage accounts
Let
through
me
content.
let me
Oh, yeah.
just pause one moment here. So I love this idea of using the digital advertising through the social networks like LinkedIn and Facebook, and I've heard more and more companies are, like you mentioned, starting here and eventually add on just display advertising as a whole. Earlier, you had mentioned using demand-based for the analytics, and I'm curious if you also use demand-based for the banner advertising as well.
We haven't used demand-based as much for banner advertising. The current one that we've used to date is actually going to be AdRoll, where we've had great success with leveraging that through display advertising.
And is that the retargeting product or a net new targeting capability?
That's both. So you can either retarget it off your website or list upload as well for display marketing.
Gotcha. So very concept as what you have on the screen here in terms of LinkedIn, Facebook, upload a CSV of contacts and match the cookies available for targeting.
Correct.
Cool. Please continue.
Yep, no bet. So we'll talk here real quick to engage accounts through content. So now that you've had all of that targeting built out, you have your forms built out, you want to make sure you're also creating the right content for those individuals, but also A/B testing at the same time. So here's just a quick example of a Facebook ad that we did. And this is the non-form fill web that you just saw earlier, but more of a generalized ad component that Facebook runs. And we've seen great success with these as well too, on top of the lead gen forms. So making sure the post is short, sweet, to the point. You're constantly A/B testing the display and the image as well too. Images are king, we all know, when it comes to online or mobile marketing, as well as the eye-catching header at the bottom as well too. So you grab their attention. And they take it to the landing page, and we are always A/B testing the landing page and the headers within our form fills as well too. The other thing we also test, just to give you guys an additional example, is the contact us forms. On seeing what type of forms garner the most information, get more people to convert on a contact us form, which we all know is Bell's favorite form to have filled out. So we'll just drop down real quick to an example of an ad blown up so you have more of an ability to actually look at it. Next, we're going to look at the numbers. We're jumping into the reporting component of ABM through digital. And we're talking about that. We look at three key areas when our reports. The first one is our audience and our ad performance. So when you're looking at things, and some of this might look familiar to a few of you, the Facebook, as an example, when we're looking at the reporting, is understanding the activity on the specific ads, how they're performing, and if they are performing up to par, and continuing to test so you have that, and staying on top of that. The second one is looking at the SEOs and velocity reports. I know we touched a little bit on this earlier on, but making sure those reports are built out so that way you have a tracking and you set your goals with sales as you did that head conversation early on as to what you're wanting to achieve, so they can see the change over time as you're helping them achieve those goals. And the last but not least, the sales feedback. So again, in Salesforce, we use a tool called Visible to really help give that information to sales and get their feedback as they're looking at the landing pages, or as an example, AdWords, when we're looking at the ad groups, the ad copy, and how we're sourcing them back to the actual specific asset in and of itself. And we'll just run down real quick to how to leverage offline tactics for online usage. And these are just three categories to kind of give you a sense of what that actually looks like. So leveraging direct messages. I know a lot of us probably do things with events and or in-person type dinners, potential email as well too. But a part of this is looking at direct messaging for social as an example, whether it's through Twitter, through Facebook, through LinkedIn. And the 4 steps that we take here at MongoDB is not only for sales, but for marketing team is to understand the audience, design nurture programs based on audience info. And what I mean by that is you can use tools like Insightful as an example to create nurture, track, and nurture programs, similar as to you would with email, but for Twitter. So you create those nurture trip campaigns as a step and repeat for that specific channel as you would email. You create an engagement plan when conversion starts. So when people start to actually engage with your content, unlike email, which is an open, click, and do, you'll notice that you'll actually get a lot of questions or people wanting to have a conversation. So making sure you set that properly so that way you're showing the human behind the brand. And then just continue to review the data for your learning. Now with the email, make sure you're designing unique programs and content and identify your best persona. One question I get a lot though is events. How can you leverage offline events online? So what we do is we identify the individual who are being invited to an event. We upload those lists to those digital channels like we talked about before from a targeting perspective, and continue the message pre, during, and post event. So the conversation continues online as they leave an event or leading up to an event. We create those retargeting programs as well too to continue the conversation, so that way a conversation doesn't go dark or we don't hear from somebody either visiting our website, filling out a form, or engaging with us on social following an event. And here's an example of what that actually looks like as well too, where we've identified, we've messaged, and we've had people raise their hands to say, yes, I want to join your event. Thanks for letting me know, via their channel of choice, and in this case, which is Twitter.
Solid. I love the very tactical point of view you gave us there. Especially knowing that event marketing can be its own career path and its own set of skills and knowledge to do it correctly. It's great to get at least the kind of 80% of the tactic in place, for companies or teams who perhaps don't have the luxury to hire a specialist for that role.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, Matt, I know we're here at the end of your presentation of designing and implementing ABM campaigns. I can't thank you enough for sharing your wisdom with us. I want you to leave us with a closing thought here. What is the most interesting thing you've learned about account-based marketing in the last year?
I think the most interesting thing that I've learned is constantly test, look for new innovative ways, and always be open to new technologies to help you learn and leverage the trends that are happening. Because things are changing daily and moving very, very quickly. And now as marketers currently, we have to be able to stay up with those trends and leverage the trends so we don't fall behind.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And again, thank you for your time today, sharing your wisdom and experience here and what we call a real life ABM campaign. A lot of people today, as we all know, are in the early stages of researching their own implementations. And so it's always great to hear from someone in the battlefield who has, real scars and successes from their own campaigns. So thank you again for your time. And if you have anything to close out with, please let us know. If not, join us next time when we interview more B2B marketers and learn from their ABM campaigns.
Great, thank you.